welcome back to The Biggish Talk. We break down some of the most influential bestsellers of our generation and read them so you don't have to. We're your hosts,
Sebastian.
and Harrison.
And today we're going over part 2 of Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. So if you didn't catch the first part, you might want to watch that. But we're going to start here on decision.
Right, decision. You have to make those tough decisions. Not only do you have to make them, you have to make them quickly.
Promptly and definitely.
Right, so when you're approached into a decision, you have to strike with focus, laser-like focus. I mean, if you watch Shark Tank, you know Mark Cuban, he always says, I need someone with laser-like focus, right? You always want to be 100% invested into your goal, 100% invested into whatever you want to do. Otherwise, what's the point of doing it?
Yep.
Right.
And the opposite of this is indecision, right? Which is equivalent to procrastination in a sense. And that's just a habit that we all have, to some extent that is pretty defeating in any, goal sense.
Any environment, really.
Yeah.
I mean, whether it be school, work, or athletics, your health, procrastination isn't good for you at all, and it's something that I've been trying to actively, focus on, work on, hone in on.
Yeah.
And I feel like to break those bad habits, you have to have that decisive decision making because in the
always.
moment, it's like, okay, well, do I get up at 7 o'clock? Do I get up at 10 o'clock? You have that kind of window is when you're half asleep, turn over, you look at your phone, do I snooze for 5 more minutes or do I just get my ass out of bed?
The decision is then,
Right.
even if you're like, oh, I'm going to think about it for a couple minutes.
Right.
Then you're
And
gone.
boom, you
you're
fail.
gone.
You
that
fail.
moment you have to decide, right? And he talks about how the biggest successes from decisions come from decisions of high risk, right?
Right.
And he talks about Abraham Lincoln and Samuel Adams, Robert Lee, and like all these people that, took huge risks to make a decision that's far greater than themselves, right? And that's a big part of decision too, is that even though it might seem like high risk, you have to make these decisions to learn, right? To grow as a person. And that if you don't make them, you're just going to struggle.
Right. I mean, you might as well make a decision hoping that you might accomplish something than not make a decision,
lost.
and then accomplish nothing.
You already lost.
Right. You already lost because I feel like a lot of people when it comes to decision making, let's say someone who is, overweight wants to diet, right? They always come to the decision, okay, well, I can start, and they go, okay, well, I always fail my diet, and then they never end up dieting.
Yeah, they never start. And then
I feel like a lot of it is because they defeat themselves they defeat themselves in the decision-making process before they even give themselves a chance, right? And I feel like that also ties back into faith, because if you can't have faith in your decision-making, if you can't have faith in yourself to make the right decision, then you shouldn't be making decisions at all.
Yeah.
Until you've analyzed your faith and your confidence and whatever gives you that oomph or that level of ability, right? You can't start making decisions until you've analyzed yourself and realized what makes you go and what makes you stop.
Exactly. So it's all about being introspective, right?
Right.
So
introspective, definitely.
The next thing is persistence. And he talks about 8 factors of persistence. Definite purpose, desire, self-reliance, definite plan, accurate knowledge, cooperation, willpower, and habit. I went through this kind of quickly because we kind of touched upon a lot of those. But habit is a big one for me, to be able to persist through something, you have to be able to do it day in, day out. And that's something you're going to have to work on because that's not easy, right? Just like we talk about like reading, right? It's a habit, To do these podcasts takes persistence in the sense that we need to read, right?
And we have to meet, once a week, twice a week. Yeah. We have to brainstorm, talk about this constantly.
Know the content, right?
Right. And I feel like another thing about persistence is you just have to keep going at it, because I feel like there's more like haters in this world than there are going to be people who are lifting you up.
Yeah.
And then you realize that it only matters that these so few people or these key people lift you up because they're the ones that are truly investing in you.
Yeah.
I mean, you see a lot of commercials or infomercials, right? They might try to sell you a product. Some might think it's stupid, but the people who buy into you, that's the people who you're making money off of. You're not making money off of the people who are saying no and turning away. Like,
so who cares?
Like, what have you lost? You haven't lost anything, right? You just haven't gained anything.
Yeah.
I would much rather lose nothing, or I would much rather gain nothing than lose something. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course.
I feel like another good story that we should touch on is, our boy at KFC, Colonel Sanders.
Yeah, the boy.
Fried chicken, okay? I'm sure everyone watching this podcast, no matter where you are, knows what Kentucky Fried Chicken is. But not all of them know how Kentucky Fried Chicken came to be.
Yeah.
Right. So my man Colonel Sanders, all right, the white man on the face of KFC, he had this brilliant fried chicken. He fried it, he had all these ingredients. Like, man, this is chicken gold, right? This is the stuff. But he went to over 1,000 people that rejected him before. I would have probably given up after the first 100.
Yeah.
The second 100. 500.
Yep.
Bro,
like
nobody wants me. It's been
faith.
500 times. I've knocked on 500 doors and they've all said no. But he had the persistence, right? Had he given up at 1,008, there would be no KFC today. Right? He got it after someone accepted his formula, his recipe to make fried chicken that way on the 1,009th time that he asked a fried chicken restaurant or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And now we have thousands of locations worldwide, right?
And I think persistence ties in with faith, right? Because in that sense, you got to have faith. You're there 600, 700, 800.
Right? You have to have so much belief in your product or in whatever you're doing. I mean, it also goes back to what we were talking about earlier about having that desire, right?
Yeah.
And also in the last episode when we talked about Bill Gates.
Yeah.
Years and years of working and grinding in a cubicle. You know, had he quit 9 years early, there would be no Microsoft today, right? So when you really think about persistence, it's a quality that you always have to have, whether it be in your studies or just at your workplace. You know, you might hate your boss, but one day you're gonna have your boss's job, and the only way to get there is to keep working hard, right?
Yeah.
Or be your own boss and persistently work hard so you can have some amount of money that you can set aside and start your own business with.
And like we said, like, what are you willing to sacrifice is what it really comes down to.
Right. Your time, your feelings,
your energy,
your emotions. I mean, this day and age, I don't know anyone. Well, I know a couple of people, but not a lot of people are willing to sacrifice their emotions anymore.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Their feelings are
fragile,
worth too much.
Yep. So there's a lot of symptoms that show a lack of persistence that he points out. And one that stood out for me was the habit of blaming others for your mistakes, right? A lot of people, you know, can point fingers at the president or the government or their neighbor, right? And there's a lot of reasons why you can choose not to do something. But there's also, you also have to understand that you have to choose to do something or else you're not going to go anywhere, right?
Right. And not only blaming others, I feel like another one that's really good is kind of like making excuses for yourself.
Yeah.
Because I feel like something that I struggled with personally when I was growing up was kind of comparing myself to someone who was lesser of a person than I was, or let's say lesser of a person in my goals.
Yeah.
Right. So I could be like, oh, you know, at least I'm not doing this, or at least I'm not doing that. But it was never in the terms of why am I not, or why am I not, right? And I feel like once I broke that mentality and once I really started thinking in the terms of why am I not and looking up rather than making myself feel better and looking down, right? I feel like that has been a huge change in my life, and I've been able to snowball that effect a little bit into any situation that you go into, because I feel like a lot of people, they sign up for these college classes and they drop out because they feel like, man, I just can't continue. I don't know enough. It's like, well, why don't you? Were you distracted in class? Are you on your phone, right? Or is it just really too hard for you? Is it time for you to change a major, right? It might not just be something for you, but you have to have that persistence. You have to have that power and that will to find out for yourself.
Yeah, another one I had was accepting unfavorable circumstances as being unavoidable. And that's another thing, just, blaming, just not taking responsibility for your life. And that's a major thing. Like you said, the fact that it can snowball you so powerfully after you get out of that mentality, it's like, why would you not choose that over the latter, right?
Right. And I feel like people just don't, they just don't believe in it enough. And in my opinion, anyone can do anything that they set themselves out to do, as long as they make that decision. I mean, a while ago, assuming that most of our viewers are a little bit younger, on the younger side, there was that one backpack kid, okay? The kid that would just do the floss, right? And he went viral, not because he was really good at the floss or that he had a nice backpack. It was just because he was willing to be filmed and have it put online, and he just went viral that way. I feel like a lot of people don't realize the amount, like what they do, no matter how stupid it is or no matter how great it is, as long as you're willing to do it in the first place, you will be given, some sort of credit.
Yeah.
Like, Lil Tay that
Oh,
was a
God,
huge
dude.
thing on Instagram. She was like 9 years old, and she would, flex a bunch of money. Obviously, it's not her money,
Yeah.
right? But she got fame and publicity because she was willing to put whoever of hers was willing to put that video online
Yeah.
and to subject themselves to criticism. And I just feel like people aren't, brave enough nowadays to do that.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, there's so much more negativity than there's positivity, and even if there's not, you focus on the negativity. It's just hard.
Right. I mean, it's difficult no matter how you look at it, but that's what really weeds out
Yeah,
the
definitely. That's the process.
the strong and the lukewarm, because only the strong are gonna get through that process. Only if I mean, there's something that I've always been told is when I have an idea, right, and I get asked all these questions and if my mentality is like, no, I'm gonna overcome that, right, then it's not the right idea, because why should anyone else believe in me or my dream or have faith in me if I don't have faith in it myself?
Of course.
Right.
Yeah.
So why should someone else believe it if I'm not believing in it? Right. And I feel like that's just a general rule you should always hold yourself to is, if you see something that you don't believe in, don't touch it.
Yeah.
It's not something that you should do. However, your mindset, thinking can be changed. Remember, so whether it is make your own discretion, but I just feel like you should really open up your mind to anything than an automatic decision.
Yeah, and it all goes back to being introspective, and that's just a major focus of the book. Is just you really have to understand yourself in so many different ways that you probably don't. Even though it's there, you just have to search for it a little, and that search is really crucial to just your entire lifespan, right? I feel.
Right.
So the next thing we have, this is where he gets a little trippy on us. He talks about the mystery of sex transmutation.
Yeah.
And how I kind of summarized this was find out how to transmute the drive of sex into other facets of life, right?
Right.
And this is because sex is the most powerful desire that we have, right? Or
Whether-
stimuli.
Yeah, whether it be, animal or human. He talks about like a cow or a cow.
Cow.
A cow. Okay, wait. A bull, okay, is as docile as a cow once it's been neutered, right? If you see there's changes in, even if your family has a dog that's been neutered, you will see the difference.
Yeah.
And I feel like what he's really honing in on is sexual desire is the number one kind of driving force of anything. Even looking in our history or even in our own cultures, we're here for a reason.
Yeah.
And it's because our parents chose to reproduce.
Yeah.
So I feel like love is such a strong aspect of our life as well. Love or lust, whether it be either of those things, you will see that in the majority of people's lives, they always have that one quality. And I feel like he's just saying, take that energy, all that sexual tension and energy that you have, and put it into something that you love or into a goal that you really have your faith in and you believe in.
Yeah. He also talks about how there's 10 mind stimuli that are the most impactful, I guess. And the first one is sexual expression, what we touched upon. Love, desire for fame or power, music, close friendships, mastermind, in perfect harmony, mutual suffering, autosuggestion, fear, narcotics, and alcohol. So there's a lot here, but we're not going to touch on all of them. But he talks about how these stimuli create peak performance for creativity and imagination. And it's kind of weird to think about, right? Like, how does you being in love with someone create creativity in your mind? But if you turn it to the other side and think of alcohol, right? When you're drunk, you do things that you wouldn't do before, right? You kind of do crazy things. Or there's always a story, right? So there's some level of it's weird to think about, but there's some level of creativity that comes along with that.
Right, I think in any kind of situation or whatever problem that you're in, for example, like you're talking about love, right? Let's say you have, let's say 20 years from now you're a father and you have a family, you just got laid off, right? All of a sudden, your monthly income is no longer there.
Yep.
And now your family has a set amount of income to live off of because you're saving and you're budgeting wise, but eventually the money's gonna run out, right? So now you have to get creative. How am I gonna make money to support my family? And I feel like there's a lot of driving forces. Not only sex, sex being the primary one, but there are other things that people desire in life that they will spend the time to create some sort of solution.
Yeah.
Because just in your mind, having your family be living on the streets or starving is just not even in reality, right? You've willed it out of reality because you can create something pukes out of your brain, find a solution, whether it be, going door to door to sell floor tiles or whatever.
Yeah,
right?
you burned all those boats, right? You're in a spot where you have to do something.
Definitely.
To succeed.
And I think, something that people might need a little bit help on understanding is the mastermind. It's not like you went to the movie theaters, you saw Megamind, and then your brain's gonna be that huge, right? But no, mastermind is mastermind is like having a bunch of people who are equal or like you in the same goals and just putting them in a group together.
Yeah, I think the power of combining not even like minds, just in the same mindset, but having different specializations could be so powerful, right? Like you said, you don't need it's like a computer, right? We kind of have some of our knowledge in the computer, right? Mm-hmm. When we don't know something, we search it up. Mm-hmm. And to have people around you that can help you make decisions in that kind of dynamic can create so much abundance of resources and success and all these things because you have those different opinions from like-minded people.
Right. And when you're sitting in a room, let's say there's 3 people, right, and they're sharing, there's 3 people, we're all 20 years old. There's one person sharing, right, and the other 2 are listening. You realize that in that room, all of a sudden you have 60 years of experience, right? Maybe minus the first 5 years of our life, but let's say 45 years of experience versus 15 years of experience if you're handling a problem alone. And I feel like something that's so important is to have synergy with whoever you're masterminding with, whoever you're meeting with. You have to be able to work well with them, otherwise it doesn't end up anywhere. I think something that's really fun to think about and understand is the whole concept of 1 + 1 = 3.
Yeah.
Right? At first you're like, okay, well, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
But it really does, because when you're with someone that you truly can bounce ideas off of, you realize that cap on your potential has just skyrocketed through the roof. And that's what makes it possible. 1 + 1 = 3 all of a sudden.
Like a good example for if you don't understand, it's just like any sports team, right? Where there's like 2 mediocre players, but together their dynamic is just far greater than everyone else's, right? And in that moment, like you realize that maybe this is more than 2 people of value, right? It's 3.
Right. I mean, Kobe is a great player. Shaq's a great player. Put them on the same team. Kobe and Shaq, you guys know for years they dominated the basketball scene, and it's because they both played well together. Yeah. Right. Although their relationship ended a little bit poorly. Yeah. You still can't deny the amount of success that they had because they were together. And it wasn't like it was so bad to the point where like they really didn't even need a team. It was just 2 of them playing the other 5 guys, right? And
that's usually how it works.
Right. And then all of a sudden 2 = 5.
Yeah.
Right. So 1 + 1 = 5 all of a sudden.
Yeah, and then in that sense, it's ridiculous because they really just take over like the whole team, and at that point,
especially when you're strong in one area and you have all your strengths laid out, and you have, let's say, a really good friend, your best friend, or even your companion, your spouse, right? The other that's being able to cover your weaknesses. You realize that together, not alone, but together, you're able to achieve so much more. Not only because you have someone that you can bounce ideas off of, and we were talking before we even started, like it's so nice to be able to talk to someone and realize that they have the same mindset as you, and they help you analyze problems that you otherwise may not have had the same perspective on. I feel like everyone brings just a little bit different.
Yeah, and to have 2 people that can add like value from each other's weaknesses specifically, kind of just make that 1 + 1 = 3.
Right. I mean, I always think of that escape prison scene to where like there's a huge was it like an empty pillar almost, right? There's 2 walls, and there's one wall on each side, and then the 2 people, they have to kind of go back to back and climb the wall.
Yeah, leverage each other.
Right. And then you realize if one person gives up or stops, or if one person starts to climb higher, they both fall. Yeah. If one person stops, they both fall, right? You need 2 people to be able to work together.
Perfect harmony.
And that's where you're really going to see your results skyrocket. It's where you're going to get your 10 times your growth.
I mean, we've said this a lot. You can't go that far without a team. People create opportunities for us as we do for them, right? So it's all about, I think the power of the mastermind is just a key point that everybody has to really understand, is that a team is always going to be far greater than just one.
All right. Always.
So now onto the subconscious mind.
I know we touched a little bit on this in the last episode, but I really think that Napoleon putting such a special emphasis on the subconscious mind, it really just drives the point further that you're able to control it. Yeah. Because no one talks about things that they aren't. Well, let me rephrase that. Excuse me. no one, spends extra time on something that they can't explain or something that they can't control.
Yeah.
Let's say you're driving and it's raining and someone runs a red light. Well, you're kind of like, okay, he hit me.
Yeah.
Well, I can't really control that he ran the red light, right? And then so you move on. But I feel like the subconscious, the why it's so highlighted is because it's something that you can control and you really can coach and will, very much like yourself or even like a child, right? I feel like when you look at your subconscious, you can almost see it as a child in terms of it's the most raw emotion and processing form that you have. Because beyond our subconscious, we have our consciousness, and then in a heated argument, I might want to punch someone, right? But in our consciousness, we're like, okay, well, that's not the right thing.
Yeah, what's the consequence?
Right, right. Well, I'm obviously not gonna throw any hands.
Yeah.
But my subconscious is like, let's go.
Yeah.
Right. So I feel like as a child, you don't think about your consequences. You just do, and do. So I feel like the subconscious is just the most raw kind of emotions that you could ever have.
I think it's like, like you're saying, like the most raw form of like everything that you've been taking in is just there in your subconscious, right? Like that's what they talk about stories about how, if you surround yourself with wealthy people, you're going to become wealthy. Or if you surround yourself in poverty, that's why most people don't move out of their economic class, right? It's because you're set in this spot that you take it in consciously and your subconscious kind of lets it settle. And that's just what you believe. And the fact that it can settle means that you could change it, right? And like you said, he emphasized this throughout the whole book. Yeah, this is just something we have to understand, that we can influence this. And then once we can and get ourselves in a mindset where our subconscious just believes that we can achieve and we start just the growth, like you say, just gets exponential.
Right. Because once you have that mindset mastered, once you have it coached, you have it down, you start to see your little, let's say your little basketball team, right, of players on the court start to hit their goals, start to win the games. And in your mind, you're going to be, taking those risks. You're going to be coming out on top of everybody around you because you have this kind of mindset. When it's 6 o'clock and your alarm is ringing and you don't even look at your snooze button. You're just half sitting up in your bed. Okay, let's go. Right. And I feel like you can only achieve that once you've somewhat coached your subconscious into helping you make that decision for yourself already, because you're already half there with whatever your subconscious is. I'm half there. My subconscious wants to sleep. That's why I even consider the snooze button, right? But if my subconscious wants to just get up and go do things today, then I'm not even gonna look at it twice.
Yeah, that's great. The next thing he talks about is the brain.
This is by far the most weird thing I've ever read.
Yeah.
If there is any point that you kind of just put the book down and say, no, this
Yeah,
guy's a little
I
crazy,
agree.
right? This would be the chapter. Okay.
Not the sex transmutation
No,
part.
no. That I can understand.
You can walk through that one, but
Okay.
once you get here,
He's saying, like, you see, in my notes I wrote this guy's on drugs. Okay. But there's a collective mind. Okay, Napoleon says there's a collective mind that we can all tap into by radiating the correct frequencies in our brain.
Yep.
There's some supercomputer of knowledge we can access.
Infinite intelligence.
That's
what he uses.
By, using our brain.
Using our
like a
creative
radio.
imagination.
You know what? More that I sit here and think about it, I think it's kind of like all successful people have a common trait. They have a common mentality. They have a common mindset, right? So when everyone is radiating that same mindset, right, all of a sudden you have access to all those successful people. I think that's what he means.
Yeah, actually, I kind of
think
agree
that's
with
what he
that.
means,
I mean,
you know?
I don't know if it is because he was probably on drugs, but
Yeah.
I can agree with that.
I
That makes
just
a lot of
watched
sense.
a YouTube video about how someone from the UK, he did this financial freedom challenge, okay? He is a millionaire that does real estate, and he stripped himself of his millions, and for 1 week, he had 7 days to achieve financial freedom. And for all of you people who don't know what financial freedom is, it's just being able to make enough money to where you don't have to hold a job.
Yeah, and supply your lifestyle.
Right. It completely supplements your lifestyle. So what he does is real estate. And by the end of those 7 days, him grinding, him having a separate mindset. The mindset is that if you are self-made, right, you should be able to make yourself again.
Yep.
And again and again and again.
And that's
the
what he
whole the whole purpose of this book, okay, was Andrew Carnegie challenging Napoleon, saying, "Hey, I know all the successful people. I know there is a plan to success, okay, and anyone can be successful. Are you willing to take that plan?" Because Carnegie is saying, you know, one of the most largest steel industrial producers in America at the time, says, I have all the connections.
Yeah.
I can plug you into the top 500 richest people of this country, but you have to take and accumulate this knowledge, you know, whatever, a series of short stories, whatever you do, but I'm not going to pay you.
Yeah.
Right? Are you willing to do it? He said, yes. So I feel like in this sense that anyone who has that resonating frequency or that mindset, I think he's just referring to the mindset in terms of someone who's self-made. They know the disciplines that they need. They know who they should be talking to. They know who they shouldn't be talking to. And in any situation, they should be able to remake themselves the way that they made themselves in the first place.
Yeah.
And I feel like when everyone shares that mindset, when all the rich people have that, or when all the wealthy people, successful people have that mindset, all of a sudden you kind of see things on the same page.
Yeah.
Right?
So the question is there a formula to success?
Formula to success. I think there is. I
believe
because
there is too.
Because when we look at someone who's successful, okay, let's say a while ago, who's successful? There's a lot of people successful.
I don't know where your example's kind of going.
Okay, so let's say Steve Jobs.
Sure.
All right, Steve Jobs died when he was around, I think, 60, or
we can look it up. We have computers.
I think it's 60, give or take.
Yeah.
But you kind of take his 60 years of intuition, okay, his knowledge, his experience, everything that he's done, and all the challenges that he's faced over his 60 years, he's done it for you, right? And he has came up with the solutions because obviously he's successful. There's some way that he got over all the obstacles in his life to get to the place where he was. And I feel like when we stand on top of our parents' shoulders, right, they give us that experience that we need, or that kind of small coaching from riding your bike, right, to how to shave, to driving your first car. I feel like we didn't have to spend 16 years learning how to drive a car. I spent 30 minutes, quickly in the same vehicle saying, hey, this is what you do, this is what you don't do, right? Because over the past 30 years that they've been driving already, they've condensed that 30 years of driving into 30 minutes for you.
And
right?
from condensed from before too to them, right?
Right. So then you realize that there is a plan. Just like how there's a plan to drive well, like there are stoplights in this world to maintain traffic, there's a plan for you to be successful. There's certain disciplines that you must have in order to reach the goals at where you're at.
And I think that's why all these books are kind of similar, right? In a sense, they talk about the leadership. They talk about, how you have to have these persistence and all these things. And it's because, these are just some of the main habits,
right.
Like exponents in your formula, right?
When you really boil it down, it's the same. It's so similar to every book that's out there. Exactly. But I also feel like it's why it's so important that we buy into the whole plan, because everyone has a different plan.
Yeah.
Okay? Everyone's gone through different things. Yeah. And it just really depends on what you want to do.
Yeah.
If you want to be a great, software engineer or product designer or even a good PR person, you look at Steve Jobs and you look at his life and you look, what has he done? What does he know? Right. And then I can acquire the same skills, act similar to the way he does, obviously make your own decisions, but he's almost blazed the trail for you already.
Yeah. Well, they say if you replicate what a wealthy person does, you're going to achieve the same. Right.
Right.
And so that in that sense, there is a formula.
Right.
There is.
And because what they do is inherently successful. Everything that they do with a reason. I mean, do you ever watch TV and be like halfway like, dude, what am I watching? Right? Like I'm not even enjoying what I'm watching anymore. And
you're just watching it to watch it.
And then you realize, like, I just have 30 minutes before I got to go to bed, you know? Why am I not in bed right now? Because I'm watching TV. Because all of a sudden I have all these constraints put on myself for no reason. I have all these chains that I've wrapped around my arms and my legs.
That's a good one.
But for what? Right? Yeah. So when you really think everyone, unless they're truly everyone wealthy is smoking or shooting up, okay, which I don't believe. I feel like that's the only way for all of them to tune in and see everything on the same page.
Yeah.
Right.
Last but not least, the sixth sense. What is the sixth sense? It is the
cannot be defined.
It is the creative imagination, bro. The creative
A
imagination.
creative imagination that cannot
be defined much further than
yeah.
that.
It cannot be described to a person who has not mastered the other principles of this philosophy, because such a person has no knowledge and no experience with which the sixth sense may be compared.
Yeah, Napoleon Hill gets a little crazy here. He goes on about his theories, and he's telling us that we can't understand it. Really, kind of doesn't help us to, describe it to you guys. But I mean, the sixth sense is creative imagination, and it can aid you. It can aid you when you need it most, right? In these moments that you have the idea and you can create opportunity for yourself and for others, right? And overall, just it can warn you from dangers and notify you for opportunities.
Yeah, I think the sixth sense is really just your gut.
Yeah,
You know,
he kind of talks about it like
when-
that.
When you are successful, you just kind of have a gut feeling about things.
Yes, but that's the key, is when you are successful.
Right, when you are
So
successful.
what can we take away from this? I don't know.
I think this kind of reaffirms the whole frequency thing. It reaffirms that once you are able to be successful, that you've developed this plan and you've followed your discipline, is that you're able to maintain that success. You're able to continue. I feel like that's just a reassurance that he finds in interviewing all these people. And he realizes that, after they go through the hardship and after they overcome that mountain, after they climb up, Everest, and they're sitting on the peak, look at everything below, they realize ways that they can be smarter, be more efficient, and not make the same mistakes that they have in the past, and be able to stay at the top of Everest.
So you think it's like experience that goes to your subconscious mind that comes back out as like intuition?
Right, because I think when you ask someone why they made a decision, there is a whole story, right? So it's like, well, why do you walk on, okay, so for example, if you and your partner are walking on the street, right, why am I walking on the outside?
Yeah.
It's because, in case if a car ever drives on the curb, I can push her and then she's not going to be in danger, and then I push her into the street, right? I'm going to push her to the side. But then again, you have like, okay, so where did you learn that from, right? And they know, okay, well, my parents taught me to be a gentleman, and well, where did they learn that from? There's just so much kind of experience that makes you successful in any situation that you can look at, that you have to tap into, that you have to have that sixth sense to know, because anyone who doesn't have that experience, they wouldn't be walking on the outside of the street, right?
For sure. I think that's a great place to close it.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for tuning in this time. This is all the time that we have for this episode. If you guys had any things, including any drug histories on Napoleon Hill, please leave them in the comment section below. If you liked the video, leave a like. If you really enjoyed, please subscribe. It helps us know that we are doing what you enjoy.
Yep. And I know this was kind of a difficult book. You guys can go read it for yourselves. It is difficult, and you will find that he is on drugs. So let's go out and get this bread.